What's happening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Park Lane Podcast. One thing you might notice today is, international duty is over, but the lack of team is not over, and so unfortunately, it's just myself that you'll be dealing with today. Let me know who you are, where you are in the chat. Would love to get some of your thoughts on all things Tottenham Hotspur. We will be talking about the season so far. We'll be talking about Ange Postecoglou. We'll be talking about the Chelsea game on Thursday night, and also we'll be talking about the Southampton game next Sunday. I'd like to hear all of your thoughts regarding all of these things. But yeah, let us know who you are in the chat, and I can see already Jay's in the chat, so I'll answer some of your questions shortly. Bear with me 1 second. Sorry, everybody, 1 minute. Of course, I'm having computer problems, so... Right, we're back. No problem at all. Right, so Jay, I'm going to start off with... actually, do you know what? Something I completely forgot. Sorry for all of those listening on podcasts. It's not a great start to the show, but it'll only get better from here. If you're new to the podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're new and you've never listened before, give us a follow. Why not? All of your support does really help us out, and we are able then to reach more people, and that's great. If you do follow us on any other platform, whether that's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and all the rest of it, then just drop us a follow on the other platforms as well. Right, enough of me rabbiting on. Let's get to some of your comments. So Jay in the chat has asked, choose one, Pochettino or Iraola. In my opinion, I want Pochettino back, but if we got the Bournemouth manager, I wouldn't be disappointed, as he's doing well at Bournemouth. But Bournemouth are also having a great season, which is why I don't think we could get him in if Ange got sacked. For me, if we lose the second leg, he has to go. Just a shame it didn't work out. Do you know what? This is a really, really interesting one, actually, Jay. We'll talk about that to begin with. I did a video for a few channels actually this week regarding my thoughts on Ange Postecoglou and my thoughts on, kind of where we go from here for Spurs. And I kind of still will reiterate, that if we want to rebuild and we want to have, this kind of, time for Spurs to be able to get to a position where we need to be. Personally, I think it's ridiculous if you sack a manager, personally. I mean, yes, it's not been a good season. It hasn't been, right? I'm not going to sit here and say that Ange's been amazing this season. My concerns are you sack a manager and you go back to square one. You sack Ange Postecoglou, you bring in Iraola. Does he do any better than Ange Postecoglou at this moment in time? And in 18 months' time, do we have the same conversation again? Do we have the same argument again that things aren't working out? Do we then start, saying whoever the hottest manager is at that time? We did the same to Nuno Espirito Santo. We hounded him out of our football club because we wanted winning managers. We wanted managers who were going to win us trophies, and we tried that with Jose Mourinho. We tried that with Antonio Conte, and look where Nuno is now with Nottingham Forest. So I'm not suggesting that Ange isn't to blame, but I also think you have to look at the ownership in a certain direction. You look at Nottingham Forest. Let's use them as a prime example with Nuno. Okay, it could be a one-season wonder. Next season they could be, back where they have been before. But if you look at Nuno and you look at Nottingham Forest, they spent a lot of money before he came in. They spent a lot of money when they first came back to the Premier League, and they nearly, apart from we obviously bought Brennan Johnson, they nearly had issues with financial fair play. But that money that they've put in and that money that they've spent has worked out well for them. Unfortunately, at Spurs, even though Daniel Levy has spent money on Spurs, it hasn't been spent in the right direction. So bringing in Iraola may not change anything. And my fear is that we go back in 18 months' time and we say, Iraola out, and then we call for whoever that might be, let's say, just use Scott Parker as an example, right? This is who we want. He's doing really well with whatever team he's at that moment in time. this is the guy that's going to bring us forward and win things for Spurs. I'd like to know, you guys' thoughts in the comments as well. I can see a few of you watching, so let me know. Do you agree with that? Do you disagree with that? Look, my theory has always been for the last month or so that Spurs try and hang on to Ange as long as possible, and then after the 2026 World Cup, they go and try and get Mauricio Pochettino back. Unfortunately, if that's if Poch is who you want, it's near impossible, in my opinion, that Spurs go and get him before the end of the World Cup in 2026 because he's contracted with the USA. Whether they get rid of him before that due to his current performances, I don't know. But the way he talked about Spurs and the way that he still kind of has that feeling that unfinished business at Spurs. I can see that him definitely coming back. He's got a good relationship with Daniel Levy and everything else. But right now, it just wouldn't happen. So my theory has always been that if Spurs go out and get a new project manager next season, the likelihood is we don't go back and get Mauricio Pochettino. At that kind of moment in 2026. Will Ange hang on that long? I don't know. We had this debate a few weeks ago with, and people laughed when we had this debate. But if he won the Europa League, would that be enough for him to be able to stay at Spurs? And I think 100%. The fans want a trophy, right? But for some, it won't be enough because they want, in my eyes, perfection, which they'll never get, which is a manager that they love, playing the football that they love, dominating every competition and winning multiple trophies. And I personally believe unless you go and support a club that has a state-owned, unless you go to support a state-owned football club like Man City, Newcastle United, or any of those, PSG, things like that, then it's going to be very, very difficult for you to do that in the modern game. You have to spend money and you have to spend it on people. How long have we been calling out for Spurs to go and get someone of the ilk of Isak? Anyway, that's my kind of rant on that situation at this moment in time. Jay's also said, for me, Pochettino is the right man to replace Ange. Again, but it definitely isn't something that we can do right now, in my opinion. Nige Pure COYS that said that's not actually true. A lot of fans just want a manager that doesn't play chaotic football. Big up to you. The issue that I have with Ange Postecoglou, because for those that don't know, I'm based in Glasgow, so my neighbours, everyone on my street supports Celtic, and I was having my haircut with one of my neighbours a couple of days ago. And me and her were talking about Celtic and Ange and Spurs and Ange and so on. And that was one thing I said to her, was that the biggest issue that the fans have is that in modern coaching, you should coach for the game. So you should change your tactics based on who you're playing. But Ange, for some reason, doesn't do that. And I get that, Nige. I do get that when it comes to, let's say, Chelsea, right, which we'll talk about soon on Thursday night, modern managers will tweak their system so that, to benefit them against Chelsea. Look at Chelsea's weaknesses, look at Spurs' weaknesses against Chelsea, look at Spurs' strengths against Chelsea, and then be able to do it like that. Chelsea, on the other hand, because Spurs don't do that, Chelsea will probably say, okay, what we'll do is we'll sit compact, we'll win the ball back at the edge of our box, and then we'll break wide, because that's basically how you attack Spurs at the moment. So I do get that. But she was saying to me, when it goes well with Ange Postecoglou and he gets the right players in, then it goes really well. But then, I know a lot of people's arguments about Scottish football and, the standard and so on. So it's definitely interesting, big up to David Clark, said hi from Leicester. I hope everyone in the chat is well. I hope you're well, David. Good to see you on early doors tonight. I like to see that. So, I want to kind of talk about how the season has gone so far. So, we're out of the international break now, and I had a little look at kind of where Spurs are, and look, it's not pretty reading, right? We're currently sit 14th in the league, which is not acceptable for a team like Spurs. This is Spurs pre Daniel Levy, pre Enoch, under the to this season is how many goals we scored. So we scored 55 goals, right? And I am reading these stats. So, do you know what we'll do? We'll let's bring them up on the screen. And Callum's actually joined us, so I'll chuck Callum in a second. Let's bring up these stats on the screen. One sec. Right, here we go. So this is where we're at the moment as a football club. So far down, you've got to pretty much scroll down to the next page to see us. All right, Callum, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. I thought you was looking lonely, so I thought you'd give you a friend for at least once.
Yeah, so look, we sit in 14th in the league. One place behind Manchester United, behind Crystal Palace, Brentford, Bournemouth, Villa, Fulham. I mean, the list goes on, doesn't it?
It's a joke, isn't it? It's an absolute joke when you think of how we are.
The interesting thing to look at is goals scored, right? So, currently we have Liverpool, 69, and then we have Man City, 55, and then we have Spurs, 55. So we're the joint second highest scoring team in the Premier League. That's higher scoring than Arsenal, Forest, same as City. Same as City, than Chelsea, Newcastle. But yet, Champions League quarterfinalists, Aston Villa. But yet, we can't be higher than 14th. Like, what do you put that down to, Carl?
Well, it's like you said, we have no issue with scoring at all. I think it's the fact of Ange's style making such a high line be played, our players not being suitable for it across the board, high injury rate, and the fact that I think his gung-ho nature is we'd rather outscore the other team, like when Klopp first came into Liverpool. So it's really interesting when you look at it and think how drastically we are down there. And a lot of it's because either we've taken the lead in a game and not kept it, or we've conceded a game and not chased it properly at all. And the amount of silly results we've had this year is unbelievable, to be honest, mate.
Yeah, definitely. And that's an interesting point, you talked about that, and our goal difference at the moment is plus 12, right? Plus 12. Where the teams around us, Man United, -3. Crystal Palace, there are a couple of points where it was 3. Brentford, 5. It's only when we get to Bournemouth who are on very similar to us. So it's actually the goals conceded that's the worrying part. And it's madness, really. Like, you look at a team under Ange Postecoglou without Harry Kane, who are joint second highest goal scorers in the league, yet they sit 14th based on goals conceded. And that's kind of what I touched on before you jumped on, Callum, and that was, how, like, Spurs fans are getting annoyed probably about, I mean, some are just getting annoyed because they're idiots, in my opinion. Some are getting annoyed because of the fact that Ange won't change his system based on the opposition, right? So let's talk about Chelsea away on Thursday. We know what it's going to look like, but that's the issue, I think, is that, we concede so many goals. Because even though we're joint second in goals scored, if we look down that, Liverpool 27, Arsenal 24, Nottingham Forest 35, Chelsea 37, City 40. And so all of these teams, it's only once we get down to Brentford that we see a team who's conceded more goals than us. And then same with no, that's it. Yeah. So in the top 14 teams with the second highest goals conceded.
And that's the thing. I mean, I was on Spurs Kings TV this week, and we all spoke about it, and we all had different opinions, but we spoke a lot about the Jed Spence interview, and he said that Ange just goes, "This is my way of playing. You will play this way. You will then get on with it." And realistically, I mean, that shows about as much rigidity as fuck all and all that. It shows he is so stuck in his ways that if we keep him, this is what's going to stay. No matter if we buy better players or different players, everything like that, if we buy a 6, I think this is the way it's going to be.
It's
And
difficult though, mate, because I think if we don't lose the ball so much in the final third at the edge of the opposition's penalty box, like if we can, the thing about his system is that you have to keep the ball in that position, because if you lose it there, you're screwed. And so that's where, like, I don't know, certain players could help us in that area. Do you know what I mean?
but
Because if you get like the likes of I'm just saying, right? I'm just plucking names. And if you have like players who can pick those passes, who can keep hold of the ball, like De Bruyne style players, then they're going to have more chance of playing that football. But I get your point.
yeah, I mean, ultimately, I mean, the way that Spurs are, we're lucky if we're going to keep our own best players this year, let alone get any new quality players like De Bruyne. I think you've got De Bruyne mixed up with Johnny Cardoso and all that from Real Betis, and
No, I don't mean him.
even that prick yesterday said, "Oh look, Betis could get Champions League football. I might be staying here instead." So look, the the thing is that we've lost so many games by such a small margin, and it's these ones where we wanted the players to step up and go, or actually keep their head down and not concede early. Like, I mean, look at the shit that we had at Fulham before. Literally, we was in the ascendancy. We should have probably done a lot better in that second half, and we can see 2 goals within 5 minutes. So games have slipped away from us. The Brighton game, the 3-2
Yeah.
earlier in the season, the Ipswich game, where we're the only team that's lost to Leicester and all that and drawn with them. Every other team has at least got a win against them, I think, apart from Southampton as well. So, I mean, all of these teams, I mean, yeah, we've had some great scalps this year. But we've beaten United. They're next to us. We've beaten West Ham earlier in the season. Whoop-de-doo. Yeah, we've taken City twice. I mean, but it's all the teams that we should be beating. And this style should be able to beat low block teams because it's high intensity running. You're meant to be running and making space around the block. And our players seem stubborn and insolent to the fact of, if I actually just run at a man, it might actually make him back off a little bit and make some space. Simple
But
as
then
that.
that's my issue, right? Because that exact statement there is what my issue is. It's not in a good reason, because that's how the system should be played, right?
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, it's not Ange's problem; it's a player problem.
But he should be training them to be doing that, shouldn't he?
They're not capable of doing it.
But then half of these players are who he's brought in now, aren't they? A lot of this team, I mean, based on the money that he's had, I mean, he's had more money than I think Mourinho and Conte in the time that he was there, and more in the last couple of seasons than Nuno and Pochettino had as well. So, I mean, all the players that he's brought in, Brennan Johnson, Mickey van der Ven, Dragusin, Vicario, Maddison. And I've just seen an analogy from David Clark, which I actually understand from work. So, I mean, I love that. That's fucking brilliant.
We'll read that in a second.
Yeah, obviously, Dragusin, he had Solanke, Odebear, Lucas Bergvall, Archie Gray. He's brought Spence back into the fold as well. He was the first one to properly use Udogi, the first one to use Matassar as well. So all of these players have been brought under his tenure. They've been there long enough for him to be able to implement his style. If they're not playing for him, then that's what he's paid for as the manager to deal with and go, either you play for me or you fuck off. And that's the problem. I think he's too nice as a manager. I don't think he's got that nasty side to him. He takes everything like, oh, yeah, it's my fault. Everything's my fault.
Yeah, see, I disagree completely. I think that's the side he shows the media, because he very much wants to protect his players, on that side of things. But when it comes to, the videos you see of him, and sometimes you hear of him, especially when he was, the ones you saw before he joined Spurs and he was at Celtic. I think he's the complete opposite of that. I think he's absolute hard ass. I think we only see through the media that side because that's what he wants us to see, because it protects the players.
But if you listen to what Spence said, he said that Ange doesn't get involved in them groups. He doesn't have a go at them in the changing room. He leaves them in the changing room and all that. And he leaves the team to manage themselves in that respect. And one of the key points from what Marlon and Ash said this week was, what leaders do we have in this team as well? He's the one that chose Son, Maddison, Romero. Son's way out of form. Maddison, such a hot and cold player, but I really appreciate that he's got some of the better stats in the league this year. Romero,
I would before the show, I had a look at the stats, just to see kind of player stats, and he's highest goal scorer, joint highest goal scorer, and second, I think, in assists.
So if the problem with Maddison is his injuries now, his injuries are the main problems, and some of the petulance in his attitude, I would say, but he does do a lot. And I have to agree with David Clark now that he has been one of our better players this season. And Romero, the bastard hasn't played for God knows how long. He then has that scathing attack on the club back in October, November. He's then rinsed the medical staff, which I think we all agreed the Spurs medical staff are absolute dross and need to probably be taken to hospital themselves to have their brains analysed to see what they do for work in a day-to-day issue. But obviously, you've seen the links this week now as well. He's looking to jump ship as the first opportunity. That is the position we're in now, where even our leaders, or our so-called leaders, are looking to jump ship. And that has to come back to Ange, because he's chosen the players to lead the guys. He's also too standoffish. He doesn't shout on the touchline to get people doing stuff. It's just a lot of arm waving, and then he lets them go about their way. It's like, no, this is my style. You'll play it. I won't tweak it. I won't make changes to it. You will just do this. And that's where he's exposed himself. I really think that Ange has finally been caught out by his own methods of madness. And it's a whole combination. It's just not tactics. It's the whole way through.
So where do you sit with Ange? Are you finished? Is that it? Regardless of what happens?
I mean, I was listening to you earlier, what you said. And if we're going to hit restart, then we're just going to go through this again. I don't want a manager to go, but based on all the stuff that could be going on in the club, where the club want to get rid of the medical department, they want to get rid of Johan Lang because he turns out he's wank at his job. Scott Munn has been very non-existent. Paratici could come back into it. I think there's a lot of moving factors that are going to play against Ange realistically this summer. And if he loses against Frankfurt in the next week and a half, he could go. I think there is a likelihood that it will go, but you've got to have a manager who wants to come in and replace him as well. That's in all honesty. I mean, even the players or the managers they say that could come into him, obviously, we all follow The Athletic. They're quite a reliable source. Jack Pitbrook and Jay Harris wrote the article. It was Iraola, Silva, Thomas Frank. So Iraola could go on and do very well with Bournemouth. He might earn more money, but he probably don't want to work with Daniel Levy. Silva looks like he's going to sign a new deal at Fulham, so he will probably be off the table by then. And then it's Thomas Frank. And realistically, I don't know how I feel with Thomas Frank. I think he's a good manager, but I don't know whether his sort of counter-attacking style would work what we want at Spurs either. And then you've got the outside options, like you said, Pochettino. He's got a massive contract with the US national team, so I can't see Daniel Levy paying the clauses to get him out of it unless he says he's going to walk away.
I don't even know how easy it would be either. I don't think it's just as simple as when you buy a manager from another club, you could just buy out their contract. I don't even know how easy it is.
International managers are. International management contracts are bastards because where they do hardly any work apart from scouting during the sort of closed periods when they're not on international breaks, a lot of it is based around incentives and bonuses as well. So it's a lot of rigmarole. And then the other ones you've got are outside options. I mean, if Levy thinks that if we go to either Matt Wells or Ryan Mason, then I think they'll probably set fire to the high road. Let's put it that way. And the other ones have got to be like Xavi and other European managers.
And this is what doesn't make any sense to me, right? Because, you mentioned then that hitting reset again is not going to work, but every single manager in my opinion, that you've mentioned is a reset manager.
Yeah, they're completely different to what we've got. So
what's your okay? Let's say like you're Daniel Levy right now. Like, what's your solution to fix this?
Well, if I was Daniel Levy, if I had a gun in my desk, I would literally pick it up and go like that because of the way that it is. But I can't say that. Realistically, I think that there's not one answer, in all honesty, because of the way that how far we have fallen within 12 to 18 months, and the focus has been on the business and not on the footballing side. I think it's a lot bigger than just changing the manager. It's a whole structure that needs to change throughout the whole club. And ENIC ain't up to doing it. So, I mean, I think we'll just go around in circles again for another 18, 24 months.
Then this is my point, right? So then what's the point in getting rid of Ange Postecoglou? If all we're going to do is hit reset again, we're going to go through the same, difficult transition that we've got to go through. Why not try to make it work with him and say, do you know what? This season has been a travesty, but we take into consideration injuries, we take into consideration this. Let's look at the positives. We have scored the most amount of goals. Okay, what we need to do next season is look at conceding less goals. Can we work on that? What can we bring in to be able to do that?
We said that at the start of this season, though, didn't we? We said that was the aim. We scored like the third most goals last season as well. That was the aim this season, to stop conceding. And the first 10 games was all right.
Another rebuild, it doesn't make any sense because we've only done a quarter of one.
That's the thing. It's how do we solve it? And I don't see us having one option.
That's why, for me, sacking Ange is a bad thing to do. That's why I still think that it's because we just go back to the start again.
And exactly that we're literally stuck in the same rut that we are, and I don't think we're going to get any. I don't think we're going to get any improvement under Ange. I think that we might get a 10-game bounce of new management to come in and change it, but other than that, we've got fuck all to look forward to as Spurs fans.
There is a solution somewhere. Like, there is a solution. Like, I don't know what it is. Otherwise, I'd be the man doing it. But there has to say that, for us to say there's no solution isn't right. There is a solution that will work somewhere. We just have to try and make it work. It's just whether that's with the current manager or whether we have to go, okay, we'll take the 200, 300, 400 million pound loss or whatever it's going to cost us. No European football, for 14th in the league. So your payments for each season is going to be, for this season, is going to be a lot less, and so on. And then we take in transfers. Then you're going to have to bring in a new manager, so that could involve more money spending on the new manager, getting out of his contract. Then he's going to want players. So let's say we bring in Thomas Frank. He's going to want the likes of Mbeumo.
We've still got a lot of players that we need to get out of the door this summer as well. We've still got Hill, Højbjerg, Solomon, God knows how many other youth players that we've got to get rid of as well. We've got a lot of senior players and senior youth players out on loan as well. So there's got to be a sit down with them to see what they're going to get rid of, who's going to stay. Is Dragusin going to go based on his agent going to say that? If Romero goes, who would actually come in to replace it? I mean, how many of these first team players are we going to get rid of as well? Because, I mean, I would happily put Johnson on a bus right now and send him somewhere else. I would throw Basuma over a boat. I would kick Porro up in the air to get him to realise Udogie needs to step up. Fraser Forster needs to fuck off. I mean, literally, we've got still another rebuild in the squad to balance out. We've then got God knows how many players before we even think about who's going to come in as well. And our squad's already low as well. I mean, if Angie's serious, then we've got to back him. But if it's going to be a repeat of this year, and we have to come back to the fact that the injuries, I would say at least 70 or 80% are inflicted by his style as well. And does that mean that if we're going to be playing the same style, the same formation, the same outlook, if we have another injury front next year?
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird because a lot of clubs have had injury problems this season. Like Bournemouth, for example. So you can't just say it's down to
It's only Bournemouth,
I think it's
realistically.
really, really easy for like people. What they do, right, with Ange Postecoglou, is they sit and they go, "Oh, there was an article written once about Celtic where he had players with hamstring issues." So then they just bring that up as another like way to go, "Oh, his system's the one that causes injuries on players." I think what it is, it must be. I don't know this correctly, right? But it must be something to do with high intensity playing, right? Because if you look at Chelsea, if you look at Iraola's Bournemouth, and if you look at Spurs, they all play like a high intensity style of football. They're only three clubs I can think of right now. But so therefore, it's not necessary. I think it's really cheap to be like, "Oh, Ange's style causes problems." It's more that
It's
you
the
know.
style that he plays, though. It's the style he plays, and realistically, that is his choice.
And then if you
So,
bring in Iraola, he's going to have the same injury issues.
well, exactly. That's the thing. So, I mean, then Iraola gets taken off the table. I mean, Chelsea are all right because they can still field enough players to field out a fucking army division and all that. They could go to war tomorrow if they wanted to, so they're all right. But it's one of them where Ange has to take responsibility for the style that he plays. He expects the high intensity running. So that's going to do people's hamstrings, quads, calves, any leg injuries to it. Okay, fine. Bentancur got a concussion this year and was out on concussion protocol. Not his fault. But Odegaard pulling up, Richarlison pulling up, and I'm purely basing it on Richarlison's injuries this year. I mean, he's injury prone and useless every other year, so can't say nothing. Solanke, not too unrealistic. His was a shooting injury. Romero was a hamstring injury, and he's had two of them in the last 2 years. Odegaard, hamstring. Van der Ven had hardly any injuries since before he came to Spurs, and because of the request of the style to play and the recovery runs that he has to do, because the way that Ange plays, it's down to him. Basuma, just shit. Get rid of him. So Brennan Johnson as well, hamstring injuries. Son, hamstring injuries. It is down to the style of play for it. And realistically, I can just see us having the same next year, to be honest, mate. If we're under Ange, if we're under Iraola, under Maresca, if we're under Thomas Frank, I wouldn't say we'd probably have that. They'd have contact injuries more based on set plays and set piece rounds. And Marco Silva, I don't know enough about. I just know that he screwed over Everton, Wolves, and left a wake of destruction in wherever he's gone. So realistically, it's one of them where. Oh, okay. Sorry, Dave. I made a mistake on that one, but it's obviously a continuance after that the injuries have probably hampered him. So I don't think there's any one right answer. I think that are we going to throw a load of money at it to make it change? I doubt it. Are we going to get investment in the club? Well, if we do, then that's going to have to be a whole set up to get rid of ENIC and everything like that. And if Daniel Levy stays on as chairman as well, we're going to be staying with the same. We're going to be stuck with the same shit than what we've had for 23 plus years now under ENIC as well. So I just think the club culture is completely wrong. I mean, I don't understand how we had the best youth academy for so long, and now look at it, we're literally just struggling and scraping the bottom of the pan again as well. And there's no integration between the first and the youth academy either. Now, that was one of the things that Ange was meant to do, bridge the gap with youth players.
I mean, if they're not good, they're not good enough, are they? Like this is a mental thing to say, in my opinion, because we're 14th in the Premier League. Like if he brings on a 17-year-old to get him first team football because that's what he's meant to be doing, like it doesn't make any sense to me. Do you know what I mean? Like
I
you
understand the
wouldn't do that
principle.
because the fans are just absolutely hammering.
I mean, some of the players though that have been in that first team squad this year, we have to say, should have been nowhere near it either. And I think that a youth product player could have maybe tried at least to put a little bit more effort in as well, because there was times this year as well where the players just haven't looked interested in playing under him as well. So it's there's so many problems, and I know me and you, we share a lot of similar views, but we do have polar opposites. I mean, if you had Dave on here tonight, he'd be trying to set fire to God knows how much stuff and all that, and saying Ange out, Ange out.
I don't disagree that Ange has had problems. I don't. I'm just not naive in the fact that, you cannot just buy success unless, as I said earlier, unless you support a state-owned football club. In terms of managers where we go, to me, it makes no sense to go back and start again. We've been trying it ever since we sacked Mauricio Pochettino. I still think that Daniel Levy would like to go and get him come, the end of the World Cup 2026. And if we get a new manager in now, the likelihood is that won't happen.
That's the problem. We'll be stuck with it again, won't we? I mean, are we prepared to sit another year and go through Ange ball? Are we prepared to hear Enix bullshit as well? And realistically,
to try and get success and to try and build for a future club, yes, I am willing to go through it. Yes, I am. Because it has to be done. It's not going to come overnight. And fans that think in the next 12 months or even 18 months it's going to miraculously change, I'm fucking laughing, mate. I'm laughing at them because it's not going to happen. It's going to take a long time for this to come to where we need it to be.
How long's Arteta been at? How long's Arteta been at Arsenal? It must be his 5th year now.
Yeah.
And
probably more than that, I would imagine. He came in, I believe, roughly similar time to what, like
Nuno, Mourinho.
Yeah, Nuno, I believe. Let's have a quick look.
So realistically, it's so difficult because we don't want to compare ourselves to Arsenal, but they've got the model.
Prime example, mate.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I'm saying because of the rivalry, we don't want to be like them. But I mean, realistically, they've just gone out and signed today one of the best directors of football in world football at the moment from Atletico Madrid. And look at us.
2011, he joined Arsenal.
2011.
Oh, sorry, no, ignore me. That was only played for us.
Yeah, that was as a player.
2019. So coming on to 6 years.
Yeah, so look how much they've stood by Arteta and all that. When was the last time we had a 6-year manager?
Exactly. That's part of my point, mate. To be fair, on Ange Postecoglou, whether he's the right guy, it's still to be seen. But I don't think giving up this early is the right thing. But anyway, let's move on and talk about Chelsea, because all we've done is talk for the last few weeks about Ange. So let's talk about Chelsea on Thursday night, 8 p.m. at Stamford Bridge. Look, whilst we raise our eyebrows and playing Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, actually recently Chelsea haven't been in the best form and haven't been in the best place. So it could be a good time to play Chelsea. They have had injuries as well. What are your thoughts leading up to that game? You're probably always going to think, oh, Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, it's going to be tricky. But is there any chance you think that we can get anything out of the game?
I guess realistically we should have a pretty much full squad apart from Dragusin, Danso and Kulu. So that could be a bonus. We've got more players back. I'm hoping that if we are going to do something, then we need to play pragmatically there. I don't think we can go there thinking, oh yeah, we'll outrun Chelsea or we will outrun or outscore Chelsea. Because knowing our luck, Cole Palmer hasn't scored for 9 games. He'll come back and score a fucking hat-trick against us because we do our usual shit. But realistically, we should have a fully fit back line. Spence hasn't played for England, so I don't think Udogie played for Italy. Romero played for Argentina, but that was about it. Van der Ven, I don't think, played for the Dutch. So, yeah, if we can win the postcode lottery, then, me and Luke can actually retire. Now, David, I'm not going to lie. So, we'll take that. We'll stop doing the podcasts and we'd never speak to each other again, but at least we'd be happy. Not having to start with football. But no, realistically, I want us to get something down there. But if we really don't, then I think we could be 16th or 17th by the time if we do lose that game. And I hate Thursday night kickoffs as well, especially in a Prem game. And at Stamford Bridge as well. I mean, that's really going to have to... We're going to have to step up and do something, because no matter how many times we've said over the years, Chelsea are in a bad run of form, they're really not scoring, they're not doing anything, and then Dr. Tottenham turns up. We are like the recovery team. We're like that nurse that comes in and walks in and gives you a shot of life and all that. That's us. That's how bad it is. And I mean, look at how we've played against Chelsea the last couple of years. We had that 4-2 game where we was all celebrating Ange by sticking by his guns. We then had the 4-3 last year when we had so many chances. And I mean, how did we do earlier this season? I think or last year, we haven't beat them in God knows how long. Let's put it that way.
The game when he brought back, I was in Abu Dhabi. It's when they brought back Mickey van der Ven and Romero too early, and they both got injured. We were 2-0 up in that game, and then lost. It's a tricky one. Looking at Chelsea's last fixtures, okay, they lost to Arsenal. They beat Leicester, fair enough. They beat Southampton at home, fair enough. Then they lost. Before that, they lost to Villa, Brighton in the cup. They beat West Ham. They lost to Man City. They beat Wolves. So they're beating teams around, lower than them in the league. But when it comes to teams around them, they haven't been, that good. Maybe they're going to have some, form because they've got a few players back. I don't know, but I don't know. I always have a sneaky thing that Spurs are gonna come through, and maybe I'm just an insanely optimistic person, but this is one of my major things I think about when I think about Spurs fans.
Optimistic or delusional?
How negative we are, I believe, has a reflection on how badly we play at times, personally. And I don't know if it's, people might call that insane, but I genuinely believe that as a fan base, let's look at Liverpool, right? Let's use them as a prime example. Their fans, no matter what, back the team. Let's imagine when we went to Anfield in the League Cup, we were winning 1-0. Their fans are what turned that game to their favour, got their players up for the match, and Spurs players hit. And I'm not suggesting that our fans aren't good enough. I'm just suggesting that when teams come and play us, when we have to go to certain grounds, we could do with being a bit more, have a bit more fight in us. Maybe it might reflect on the players.
I would say that our travelling fans, our away fans, the sort of 5,000 to 10,000 that usually go, are some of the best that I've ever heard.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that our fans aren't good fans, right? What I'm saying is there's so much negativity as a fan base. No wonder our team is shit.
But then you've got the team have to perform on the pitch as well. You've got to give fans something to get behind as well, don't you? Because I mean, realistically, the fact that the club are getting rid of so many concessions and they've frozen the season ticket prices, great. But then all the little red line clauses in there where they've ripped up all the disabled seating, they've taken away the elderly concessions, everything like that. When you're that fucked off at a club, you're not going to be happy going there.
I get that, mate, but then what do you expect the players to do then?
They're fucking paid to play.
I get that, but it all comes together, in my opinion. If the fan bases are down, the fan base are always slating the players, Brennan Johnson, no wonder he can't get up for a game half the time. If half of the fan base just slate him on social media 24/7, they have to delete his Instagram.
Yeah, I do appreciate that, mate. It's just that, it's so difficult.
If you ask 90% of our fans, they will say, guaranteed we lose against Chelsea. And then what will happen is we'll go in and we'll lose against Chelsea. I'm not saying that if all those fans turned around and said, I think that we'll beat Chelsea, suddenly the players will beat them. But there is something about positivity and, how the fan base is getting excited and buzzing for this game, and then that reflects on the players. Because they do read social media, they do see these things. I don't know. I think maybe it would give us an extra 5%, something like that. But that's just me personally.
Yeah, I appreciate everything you're saying, mate. I just think that because of the way that we've been so battered over the years, that's why and we can only say about our own fan base. We can't say about any of the close ones. Oh, excuse
Bless
me.
you.
Sorry. Thank you. And I think because the way that we've been treated and the way that we've seen so much crap and we've hoped for so much and got sweet FA, that's why we are such a negative bunch of Nellies for it. I mean, yeah, I think that on the pitch it might have an impact, but I think the culture of the club has an impact as well. And this, well, take this as an example. Spurs in the last 2 weeks have been posting out quite a lot on social media in regards to the players all lark arsing about and doing stuff for socials. I mean, there's some good stuff, but a lot of it is the players just having a jolly up and a belly up. And I think that's the wrong part of football because they're there to train. And if they are meant to be doing that over the 2 week gap, getting ready for another game, I mean, we said that when the players got to cut the games off previously, it looked like they hadn't done anything. And that's where I think it's negative. Spurs are too nice. We're too nice to the players. The players are too nice to the opposition. We don't have a nasty bone in our body. We don't have that bastard impact that even Mourinho asked for in his tenure as well. That's the way it is. That's why we're too nice, and that's why people then go, "Oh yeah, we'll lose to them." Because we're too nice. We give the game to the other
Difficult,
side.
isn't it? Because it's like your lads at work. You know, if you're too hard on them 24/7, the likelihood is at some point they revolt, right?
Yeah,
But if
exactly.
you allow them to do like, mess about sometimes whilst they're at work, then maybe actually when they're doing, that's what that's why I understand from the social media stuff. Do you get what I mean? Like some
Yeah.
of it's just for them to just have a break, have a laugh. But look, um, we will get to that in a minute, and we'll talk about the score predictions that we will give. The other lads have not got their scores in for the Chelsea game, so it gives us a chance to get ours. I've actually, weirdly, because I thought I was doing this on my own, I actually wrote my scores down before the show, which I won't change now. But a game that we should win, and to be honest, if we don't win and should get sacked because we're at home against Southampton and there's no way that we shouldn't beat them. Do you kind of echo that same thought that Southampton at
Yes.
home should just be a victory?
Oh, I mean, literally, that is. I think the only team that has lost to Everton this year is Everton, and I've made sure that all my Evertonian mates are very much aware of that. If we lose to Southampton, we deserve to literally. We should just swap places with them in relegation. Might as well just go down, start again.
Southampton are really struggling, aren't they? They brought in a new manager, which hasn't really done anything in my eyes.
I think he had a one-game bounce, weren't it, or something like that, and
Yeah,
then it's just been crap
and
ever
now
since.
looks like they're going to be definitely going down. It's just by how much. This is a game which is going to come at a good time in my eyes. It's a shame, really, that this game isn't going to come directly after the international break, because coming from an international break where the players should hopefully be rejuvenated a little bit, um, bar the obvious, elephant in the room, which is the fact that some of them have to fly halfway across the world. But most of them now are in first class or even private, and so I don't think it's actually as difficult as people make out. It's not like me and you are crammed into an economy seat on
Oh, what
budget air.
good old Ryan Airways and all that.
But yeah, so it's a shame that it's not coming, directly after the international break, because going straight into a game like that, being able to play with freedom and hopefully getting the 3 points, and a few goals would actually be nice. But what could happen if we don't beat Chelsea is that it comes, after a defeat after the international break, which is never easy. But if we can get something out of that Chelsea game and then go into Southampton, that puts us in a decent position, because whilst there is all doom and gloom, and I'm not saying we're going to be able to get Europe this season, but there is still football to be played, and there are still honours to be won. We are still in the Europa League, and Frankfurt, whilst they got very far a few years ago, they're still a beatable team, and it's something that we should be looking at, and we should be looking at building momentum towards, because whilst everybody says it's never going to happen, and this is what I'm saying about positivity, we need to stay positive that we can actually do something in the Europa League, because that's what's going to push us on to be able to show support, to be able to try and get to these latter stages. in Europe. But where do you sit with Southampton? You think that should be a routine victory?
Well, you would hope so. You would seriously hope so, mate. I mean, they're one of the only clubs that are more piss poor than us in terms of being run and management style as well. I mean, at least with the players that we have, we should beat them. But
Yeah.
depends on what Spurs turn up. Simple as that. And like what
Yeah.
David said, do we go with all the youngsters? Do we
Yeah, I
play?
don't think this will happen, to be honest. I haven't seen very often, apart from very early days, in the Carabao Cup against Fulham, probably one of Ange's first cup games at Spurs. I haven't seen him doing this a lot, changing dramatically before a game.
If
I'd be
anything, it's
surprised
the
to see.
game afterwards, isn't it, that struggles?
Yeah,
I mean, who have we got in between the first Eintracht game and the second Eintracht game? I think that would be the one to suffer, to be honest.
yeah, it is. Wolves away.
So that is not a nice game at all. I mean, we've been shit-a-molling you for God knows how long, to be honest, no matter who we play under. So I think that's going to be the game to suffer, if anything. I mean, Southampton, if he's going to do anything, play 5 players up until half-time, take off 3, and then take off the next 2 afterwards. I mean, probably Southampton will be Basuma's last game for us, hopefully. But
So here's a quick last question for you. As a front three, would you prefer to see Tell, Solanke, and let's say Johnson or Odegaard, or would you prefer to see Son, Solanke, Johnson, or Odegaard?
what game?
Just in general, like moving forward as our kind of front three.
I mean, everyone's been banging this drum about Tell and Odegaard. We have to be realistic. That's under 21s football. It is under 21s. It's not even the senior
Oh,
French squad.
you mean an international break?
Yeah, so I mean that's
Yeah.
where I've seen a lot of this coming from, where people have been banging this drum. I mean, don't get me wrong, they played well, and they have played quite decent for us, but there's a big ask to go from under 21s to senior games. But I mean, they've got the pace to play there. It's just whether they can do it. So I mean, if we go into, there may be Solanke, Tel, Alderweireld against Saints. I mean, realistically, you want Kulusevski there if you can, but he's going to be out injured. And based on what we've seen, he's going to be out probably until after the first Frankfurt game, maybe Wolves or even second one. So
with him back, what do you see the best front three? Do you still see it being Son, Solanke, Decky, or do you think it's Tell, Solanke, Decky? Where do you sit with Son? Is kind of my main point.
Such a hard one. Based on experience level and what he can do, I'd want Son, but I don't think he's the player that he was anymore. So maybe go Odegaard left, Kulusevski or Johnson right.
Okay, interesting.
And Werner can fuck off. No, I realistically don't want Tell. I want him to go back to Bayern. I want what's his name? I want Werner to go back to Leipzig as well. I don't see anything there, to be honest. I mean, Tell has been nothing short of useless, to be honest, since he's come in. I think he's had enough chances to show what he can do, and I can see what they're saying, that he's a young player with potential, but completely wrong option to have got in January in the situation we was in. I mean,
just
at least
a player that's like given that much shit, and said, "I'm only going to move, to the right club. That's going to help further my development." Like, fair play to you, but then you've got to back it up. And he
yeah.
hasn't.
I think he likes the sound of his own voice. I think he likes the smell of his own shit and all that, to be honest. That's the saying that best backs it up. I think he believes in himself, but no one else can see it. That's the thing. And that's why Bayern played him twice since the summer. And we've done that. We bought so many forwards in who ain't played. Tell, Werner, we've done it before as well. And Clinton Njai in Kodu. I mean, there's a running theme here. It's opportunities. And when you look how good Colomani's been for Juventus, and I mean, I know Juventus have just sat their manager, but he's one of the consistent forces for them in there. Asensio has done it for Villa. And even, I know you was banging the drum for Rashford as well. I mean, I don't think he hasn't been great, but I think he's done more than at least tell and all that based on the goal involvements that he's had. And
yeah. Well, he scored twice. I know it was only against Preston this weekend, but he scored twice.
Yeah, what was the Tell scored? What, one goal against Villa, and that was about it.
Yeah.
David Clark's just made a really valid point as well. Obviously, Danso's on loan as well. I mean, Danso, I think he's more designed.
I mean, I believe he's got an obligation.
I think,
Spurs. Yeah. I'm not 100% on that. Like, I'm not into contract talks and whatnot, but I believe there's an obligation for Danso. So
yeah, I mean, Danso I prefer the look of than Dragusin. I mean, I don't know who the hell scouted Dragusin. That was just a completely random move, to be honest, based on the fact that he's playing the back three, and we're asking him to play as a high pressing number 2 centre back.
Yeah,
so.
well, I mean, probably say this for another show, but I definitely don't know why I think Ange's system, would work perfectly with a back three, and I don't know why he doesn't, look at that and say, because I can just, the biggest issue is where we get hit on the counter attack, right? And this is not a tactic show. But the issue
relies
is
on the six.
If you have three, the wide centre backs can just split and cover the wings. But
I think that links in with what you said earlier about having the right players for the right mould. I think his aim is that if the centre backs push up, then that's what his sort of six would do to drop in there. It's just that Basuma can't do it, Bentancur can't do it. Gray's been so underutilised in it. So we've got no one for that
perfect,
six.
Right, Gray, because he's already played centre back so much for Spurs that he would be perfect to be able to slot in. Anyway,
he was one of the only good things out of the Fulham game, weren't he? So it's down to Ange to manage and get all this right. And I don't know where we go from here. But if you're going to play a back three, then you've got to hold a mid line, not a high line, because all of our players commit to the halfway line, don't they? And then because Porro can't recover, Udogie can't recover, and Spence is a good player, but still needs time to get onto there. And then you're expecting Van der Ven or Romero to recover or Gray to recover. So
yeah. Right, let's go into score predictions. It's been a couple of weeks since we managed to do our score predictions. So, with Wes's victory in the quiz last week, that puts the scores of Dave and Winnie on 16, Wes on 15, and myself and Callum on 7. So there's a lot of catching up for us to do, Callum. We have the advantage because we can now predict both of our scores for the Chelsea and the Southampton game. Everyone in the chat, make sure you get your score predictions in for the Chelsea game. First of all, is the one that we're going to be taking score predictions on to begin with. I will start and go with mine, and I've gone for a 2-1 Spurs victory.
Yeah, I've got to stick by Spurs. I know we probably won't do it, but I've got to be positive at least some respect. So I'm going to go 3-1 Spurs.
Oh, that's absolutely... Imagine that, 3-1. That just reminds me. Do you remember on, I think it was New Year's Day, where we beat Chelsea and Harry Kane scored a couple. It was a good day, that.
Yeah, I was at that game. That was a 5-3 win. That 5-3, Nasser Chadley, Townsend, Kane, all of them completely ripped them at the old lane.
Jay has gone for a 2-2 draw. To be fair, that was going to be one of mine that I'd have gone for. Before, David Clark has gone for 2-1 Chelsea. So yeah, let's go for. So you've gone 3-1 Spurs. I've gone 2-1 Spurs. Let's go Winnie to begin with, and we'll use the wheel for this. So welcome back to the wheel. We haven't done this in ages. I'll spin it for Winnie's score prediction for the Chelsea game. Remember, it's Chelsea at home against Spurs. Oh,
5-5. Fuck off.
Winnie has got a 5-5 draw.
That's horrendous. That is horrendous.
But lovely for us, though. Let's move on to Dave and his score prediction for the Chelsea game.
It'll just be a draw, though, and he'll get the points. 3-all? No.
4-0 Chelsea.
4-0 Chelsea. I wouldn't. I don't think we won't score. That's the thing. We could lose, but I don't think we won't not score.
And Wes, the wheel is doing what it should be doing currently. So let's see what happens here.
Is it
5-3 Spurs?
Seriously? No, we're never going to have a game like that again. Not at the bridge, at least.
Right, 3-5. Perfect. So the wheel has done what all season it hasn't, which it's meant to have done, but hasn't done, which has pulled up perfect scores. So I've gone for a 2-1 Spurs win. Winnie has been given 5-5. Dave has been given 4-0 to Chelsea. Wes has been given 5-3 to Spurs, and Callum has gone 3-1 for a Spurs win. Let's move on, Callum, and I'll let you start for the Southampton game. It's home on Sunday at 2 p.m. against Southampton. What are you going for?
I'm going to go for a 3-0 Spurs win.
Interesting, because that is exactly what I wrote down prior to the show. So I will change mine if that's okay, or we can go on the same score.
Just go on the same score. Don't really matter to us. We're both fucked. We're out of this completely.
Do you know what? Let's both have it. Why not? So I've also gone 3-0. That was what I wrote down before the game. David Clark has gone. Bear with me.
David's gone 3-1 Spurs.
3-1 Spurs. And Jay has gone for a 4-1 Spurs win, which would be lovely. We'll do it in reverse order for the other lads. So Wes will let the wheel spin for him for Spurs against Southampton. Remember, Spurs are at home in this game.
So 4-1, 4-3 Southampton. You know, it'd be such a Spurs score if that came in, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Right, 4-3.
I don't think Southampton has scored more than 2 goals in a game, to be honest. So I think he should be okay.
And then we'll go for Dave next. Oh, another fabulous score for Dave. 5-2.
5-2 to Southampton. Jesus.
Yeah, Southampton. And the last one will be for Winnie. So his score for Spurs against Southampton. And that's 3-2 Southampton.
So we may actually get some points this week.
Mate, we've got to hope so. So, for those that wonder why we do this and they've only just tuned in, so it's kind of a punishment for the guys who didn't show up, that they have their scores predicted by the wheel. But this season, Winnie has not been on a lot, and his scores have actually usually been quite good. The wheel doesn't tend to be that, that harsh, but this week it's been absolutely fabulous. So I've got 3-0 Spurs victory. Winnie's got a 3-2 Southampton victory. Dave's got a 5-2 Southampton victory. And Wes has got a 4-3 Southampton victory. And Callum, you've also gone for 3-0 Spurs. So here's hoping that we can get some points on the board. And next week we'll be talking about, us being a bit further up the table. But Callum, thanks, mate, for jumping on. Really do appreciate that. You saved everybody listening to me for an hour. So tell everybody how they can find you.
No, it's always good, mate. I know me and you can have balanced debates at least compared to us getting annoyed at each other. But no, it's Callum Stubbs 97 on Twitter. I am working on a couple of projects as well, potentially in collaboration with our podcast and another couple of channels as well. So hopefully might have something to announce before the end of the season as well.
Nice one, mate. And yeah, go follow Callum on Twitter as well. But also, while you're there, go and click the like button on this video especially. There's a few of you watching, so make sure every single one of you that's watching clicks the like button. And also subscribe if you're new to the channel. If you're listening on any podcast platform, make sure you leave a comment. We do enjoy your comments. According to the latest update I got, you can now leave emoji comments. So we'd love a bit of that as well. If you're following on Twitter or Twitch or TikTok or Instagram or anywhere else that we post, it's just Park Lane Pod or Park Lane Podcast. Search it wherever you can, and you'll find us basically. But we'll see you next week. We'll be talking about Chelsea and Southampton game and the lead up to the Europa League match against Frankfurt. So until then, a massive come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you